a couple weeks now, and businesses have seen a dramatic increase as far as the patrol being down there and then the positives that has came out from it. I don't know what the provider side, I know there was some arguments from the providers, thinking that we're running off of their clients, and they're gonna have a meeting and discuss some of that tomorrow. They had a meeting last week that discussed one of the providers that had that feeling, and I think some of the argument was that some of these places are kind of contradicting other places, like the Lord's Diner, and places that are trying to feed them, so they're, dropping off down there like hot dogs, and let's have a quick little party. So we're trying not to have congregation of people, and they're coming out here and making congregations that keep people, so we're just trying to, it's thick, muddy waters in a sensitive area, but we're gonna continue to do what we do to make the area better. I can tell you that the businesses that I have contact with that wanna know what can we do to solve the problem have been there for 20 or better years. They spend millions of dollars within the economy, and I think their voices kind of get overshadowed by those that just want to yell a little bit louder, and go from there, but go more in depth with that. So can I answer any questions about that there? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I heard the police chief was talking about that, and he was saying that there are not enough beds or places for the homeless to go, and so I thought the laws kind of allow for them to do some things because we can't really accommodate or house them.
Okay, so in the event of what's called camping,
Right.
camping in city property is what the chief would be probably referring to on that, is that if there is not enough beds available, then there is no crime as far as the camping goes. So if the beds are all filled up, then they're allowed to set up and camp in city property. But that's a protocol that can only be enforced by the hot team as well. So I don't know that the beds are all filled up. I don't know what the rate is. We haven't got to a point where we address that. It's more of a question I'm gonna have to find out from the hot team as far as like how many times you guys run into something where the beds are all full. And I know in the winter time it gets to that point with women, but for the most part, I don't think I've ever seen one where it's like women are the only ones that I've ever seen that do not have shelter placement at times, but women are, they're 1 out of 100 of the people that we deal with when they're having issues down there. What we have been going after and addressing is the ones that consistent warrants, drinking in public, I mean, to the actual point where they're passed out completely. Because I hate to bring this up and open, but there is no public intoxication law in the state of Kansas. It actually states it in the statute that no city nor county will actually make a public intoxication thing. So if we get somebody and we're looking at him and you see him laying there and you see an officer looking at him, like that guy's like out of it. We're like, he's breathing. I see his chest going up and down. And if anything, we might intervene and say, hey, can you roll over to your side so you're not choking or asphyxiation type thing, but that's about it. So what we've been dealing with, or what I think a lot of times is the ones that are consistently down there drinking, utilizing drugs, the suspected drug dealers that, I'm sorry, I'll invite you down there with me. We don't have a case on this particular group of individuals yet, but what looks like a duck, walks like a duck is a duck. I mean, it's amazing. I need to get some video on this stuff to just kind of show, like, what do you guys think? And it's the same thing. But the camping inside the city is something that does have its protocol. I can't go in and arrest people for camping inside the city. I'm trying to get it where I'm actually educated, where I can post the no camping, and then the hot team is the only one that can enforce it. That's how that thing was passed in the first place. And it's its own checks and balances to make sure that's not abused. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your service, sir.
That's what you do.
Hello, I'm also Stephen Thornton, representing the eastern portion of DAB 1. Counterpart pretty much gave you guys a lot, so I'm just gonna give you some stats for our side of things. Commercial robberies were down 100% going back 30 days. Robbery from person were down 66%. Aggravated assaults are down 25%. Residential burglaries are down 12.5%. And then we saw a little uptick in auto theft, that was up 21%, and then larceny from autos, that was up 17%. One thing I have coming up in, 14 days or so, make it 12, 13 days, I don't know. September 22nd, Open Streets, ICT, that's noon to 5, that's the big deals going on, obviously, from Hillside all the way over to Delano. So that's all I have to report for the eastern portion of District 1.
Very good. Any questions?
What was the dates on the ICT?
September 22nd,
22nd.
noon to 5 p.m.
Are we doing the,
Yes.
are we dunking the officer? Thornton, I think, was at the top, right?
I was waiting on, Councilmember, Brandon to take care of that first, and then I'll follow suit, so.
So I just gotta get it set up and you'll sit up there.
No,
and-
I'll let you get done first. Good?
Yeah.
Yes, take care.
Thank you.
All right, looking forward, we don't have library either, so we're gonna go ahead and move into Camila, yes. Looks like you have a report for the library. Thank you. State your name and address.
Nate Alexander, 2755 East 19th Street, that's here at Atwater Neighborhood Resource Center. On behalf of Ann Ethan with the library, this week is Senior Wednesday at the Advanced Learning Library. It's on September 11th from 1:30 to 2:30. You can learn about the KC-46 tankers that have arrived this year at McConnell Air Force Base and how the next generation planes will improve operations. If you're interested in starting a small business, consider taking the small business panel with Grow with Google. And that's Thursday, September 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Advanced Learning Library. And there will be 3 business owners with the panelist presentation also. On Friday, September 20th, the Angelou Northeast branch will host the next Candid Conversation Book Club from 7 to 8:30. This month they will discuss The Learning Tree by Gordon Parks. It's a story about racial prejudice in small town Kansas during the 1920s. And discussion will be held by Carla Eccles, the Director of Cultural Diversity for the News and Engagement at KMUW. And then tech assistance is still available Monday through Thursday evening for individuals looking for employment from 6 to 9 p.m. at My Angelou Library. And lastly, the Big Read, which kicks off Saturday, September 28th. And during the kickoff at the Advanced Learning Library from 2 to 4, they will explore Lab Girl by Hope Jarin. And that information can be found on the website for the Learning Library. This ends my report, and I cannot take any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Camila.
Yeah, fine.
Very good. So with that, Fire is actually now with us, and when they get done signing in, they'll get a chance to address us. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Nothing like going right to it.
Yep, very good.
Hi, I'm Javen Brown. We're out of Station 10 over there, 21st and Hillside, just across the street. Excuse me. Sorry, we were running a little late. We've been pretty busy the last couple hours, so just now able to get over here. I've got some numbers for August from our investigation department. They sent us a report, gives us some information. As far as fire alarms go for the month, looks like they put down 33. We've made 541 medical alarms, so you're probably aware every time the ambulance goes out, we also respond as well. And then a few of the incidents that were investigated, there was a fire 2917 East Mossman on the 8th, and The cause was determined to be electrical. Says that it spread from a wall to the attic space, and that was an estimated loss of $30,000. 1130 North Jackson, there was a discarded cigarette on the front porch that led to an exterior fire, and that spread to the attic. And that was on August 20th. August 25th, at 3806 East 13th Street, says fire in the living room of a duplex. I actually went to that one, and the house was, had a lot of extra items in it, excessive storage, that's what we call it. So that was a little more challenging. We just had, a very small pathway to get through the house. And then the fourth one was August 27th. It was 1199 East Central, and that was $150,000 in damage. And they said fire in the roof joist at a large building, and they're thinking it was electrical, related to electrical. A few things that we have going on in the department. We do have, Station 10 is the hazardous materials station, and we have a new apparatus that's being built right now, so we're excited about that. We should get it, I think, 2 or 3 months, but they're building it right now as we speak, so that's good news. And then also at the training grounds, down 31st and Oliver, I don't know if anybody's been by there, but we've got some shipping containers that people have been building some props to do fire training in. So they've welded, they've got actually several, and they've welded them together to mock up just a house or a structure. They'll have stairs, so that'll just be another tool for us to use for training. We can actually do, burns in them and get them smoky, and so we've been working on that. It's gonna expand, over time, be a little bigger, so. That's about all I have for you. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the staff? Good. Thank you very much for your
All right.
service.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move back to police.
A little busy today, apologize for being late. My name is Sarah Oldridge, I'm a lieutenant at Patrol North, over the community policing unit and patrol. The only thing I have really to pass along to you is wherever you work, live, or play, we're having a lot of larcenies to autos. People are breaking in because they think they see something valuable in there, so just want to remind everybody, you can spread the word. Even if it's an empty bag in the floorboard of the back seat, somebody will think that it's got something in it that they want, and will break the window to get in. So we are constantly battling that. So just as a reminder, if you just kind of put that out. Also, if you're parking in the driveway and you leave your garage door opener in your car, sometimes they're getting in there, opening the garage, getting in there, taking whatever they want, or obviously that could create other hazards too. So that's something to just be mindful about when you're parking. You might clear everything else out, change bags, keys, but that some people are looking for that too, to be able to gain access to the house. So that's about it. Any questions? Anything from you? Well, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your service. Thanks. With that, we're going to go ahead and move out of staff reports and into the public agenda. Item number 4, scheduled items, is the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan.
Okay. She sets those up. I might give you guys some of these to pass around.
As we get set up, I'm Jeff Fleur with Great Wichita Partnership in downtown Wichita and Evan Roselle is part of our team. Councilman Johnson is actually one of the city council members that sits on the downtown Wichita board. So thank you for the opportunity to come out and talk to you about the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan that's just getting kicked off. We're going to have a few images here in a moment. Let me move us around here. You can do it. Does that work for you?
And you can take the mic off if you want.
It's okay. I can talk loud unless you
Okay,
Pull it off if you want.
I'll try to stay stationary. This actually started a few months ago. There's a great coalition that's working on the master plan. So a number of groups. You've got the Chamber of Commerce W, which used to be YPW at the Chamber. You have the Community Foundation. You have a partnership, Downtown Wichita, Visit Wichita, and then working with the city and the county to do this new master plan development for the riverfront. We actually have, in a moment, there we go, an image to be able to show you where we're working. Perfect. There we go. This is, the area in blue here is what is really the target area that we're working on. And it actually extends all the way to Douglas, to the very top of the screen, or the street there, and then all the way down to Kellogg, and then Main Street over to the east bank of the river. This is an area that, if you go back to Project Downtown, which is a master plan for the downtown core that was passed back in 2010, it talked about doing what we're doing right now. That's a more in-depth analysis of how you develop this whole area, convention center, performing arts, hotel, water walk, all that area comprehensively. On the West Bank, there's a lot of things that are happening right now. Of course, you know, with the ball stadium that's well under construction, I think they're putting turf in September this month. I think is when they said they have to be, so that we can play ball there in April 2020. So it's going up quickly. And then just north of it, in the blue line there, is actually what you have, the Riverfront Village. I guess I will do that so that I will not break out into song, I promise you. But you have Riverfront Village here. That's a development that will complement the whole baseball area. And then actually tomorrow, there's a groundbreaking for an EPC project, which is a mixed use. And when I say that, it's residential, hospitality, retail that we'll be developing. And then this is River Vista Apartments, and then here's the new library. So a lot happening on the West Bank. So it's very timely that we're looking at the East Bank, because it really is a moment, if you think about other cities that have really developed their riverfronts, they've done it holistically. And so like the next slide, just gonna give you a couple examples real quick. Right at this point. Yeah, I've got that. This is not one of the advanced, maybe just do it manually. There you go. I'll just let you do that for me. That's all right. This is Chattanooga. And that's actually a city that really is a comparable city to Wichita as far as the size. Both banks of its riverfront were done simultaneously as far as what they wanted to do. It's been about a 20-year journey for them. But again, there's a lot of comparisons there as far as the type of uses. Now in Chattanooga, they built, it was a museum and a baseball stadium. And we're looking at convention center, performing arts, and then you already have the baseball stadium under construction. But again, a great city as far as the scale and the scope of work as an example. The next slide is Greenville, South Carolina. Again, a great city, comparable to our size. Their river's a little bit different, as you can see there, in comparison to ours. But again, they really took advantage of how is it that you build a riverfront that's connected, you know, where people want to walk, they want to be in that area. And they've done a great job with mixed-use development, again, in that area as well. Next slide gives you Nashville, Tennessee. And you probably pick up on my accent a little bit. I'm not from Wichita. I grew up in Louisville and was down in Baton Rouge for, 17 years. So Saturday night was a big night. I'm sorry, Scott. Scott's a Longhorns fan. But anyway, I was down there. But one of the things, the reason I bring it up is that when I would drive from Baton Rouge to Louisville, my hometown, I would drive through Nashville, and it was amazing to watch that whole downtown area, but its riverfront in particular really change and develop. And so what we're looking to do right now, is the next slide really gives you, these again are all the partners, is really how is it we do it well for Wichita. Yes, this is important that we get the convention center, performing arts and all that right, but this is really about talent. If you think about all the jobs that we have, I mean, look at what Spirit has announced within the last 2 years, you know, about 2,400 jobs, Textron 1,000 jobs. And that just is the big companies. Then you get into other companies that support those industries. A lot of job opportunities here. And so part of it is, how do you retain the talent that we have? You know, WSU is right here. And so how is it that we retain that talent? How do we retain the talent coming out of KU, K-State, Newman, Friends, to really be able to stay here and do the jobs that we have available? But then also we have to be able to attract talent. And so part of this is how do we create this very distinctive city that we call Wichita to be able to be that opportunity. And so a lot's going into this. There's a lot of great work being done in communications. Evan will talk about that a little bit more. But part of this, the reason it's going to be successful is if we get yourself and others involved with this. It's really important that the community owns this plan and really helps drive it forward. The next slide kind of gives you, we won't go through every piece of this, but there has been a lot of work done already about the Convention Center, Performing Arts, the economic plans behind them. One of the reasons we selected Populous to continue this is that they did a lot of this work back about 2014. And so we're building off a really strong foundation. So we're not recreating this, we're building off of it. The design team is Populous, they're out of Kansas City. Olin is the landscape architecture group that's working with them. So, you know, how do you develop a green space that is really dynamic? So you could go to that park and not even spend a dime, you're just in it, experiencing it. Or if you want to do something that costs money, it'll be available to do that too. But again, how do you create a space that really is the city's? Olin will do that. And then RCLCO will really work with us to understand what are the market opportunities, you know, what type of mixed use development could go in this area. Because again, we're looking at the whole water walk area and things of that nature to how is it cohesively done. So all those are critical components as we go forward. I'll have Evan now come and talk to you a little bit about the community engagement that we've had to date, but importantly where we're going, because there's some meetings later this month, and then in October and November, and then into January that we want to make sure you're aware of, and then certainly answer any questions that you may have. So Evan, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yeah, so we, you know, this process was born out of community engagement, and we'll talk in a second just about where this comes from Project Downtown, from Project Wichita, from the Citizens to Advisory Committee that the mayor formed last year. And so we've seen this in our community and want to continue that trend of having open dialogue about what the future of this place could be. So just a couple of photos here from the first community engagement event that we had at the Boathouse on July 31st. You can see here that, if you go back, Jeff. Sure. This is a kind of a board where folks are to scale given pieces of what they would hope to build on the East Bank and to understand how scale works and what it would look like to have activated open space or performing arts or conventions all together, and perhaps what wouldn't be able to fit, and just getting people invested in that process. We also had folks write ideas on the wall. Design team captured all of those things. The goal of this first meeting was really just to introduce the process, which again is kind of our goal here tonight, just to get you familiarized with this process, where it came from, how you can get involved, and then also to introduce the team members, who's going to be working on this and how can the public expect to engage in. We had a full meeting. Now we know. We certainly anticipated a lot of engagement here, and now we've confirmed that this is something that our community really wants to talk about, as evidenced by the several hundred folks here. If you go to the next slide. This is a little bit of our community engagement timeline here. We mentioned kind of the three source areas that at least brought these groups together. Project Wichita, and Brandon was a part of this as well. We met many times in this room. The biggest thing that we saw after hearing from about 14,000 folks were creating opportunities to keep and retain our talent and our kids. So kids that grow up in District 1 have opportunities to come back here and work here and reinvest in the community that invested in them. And so how do we think about that cycle? And when we looked at some of that information, we broke down some of that data. We saw that gathering places were a big deal, particularly in minority communities too, having activated gathering spaces where everybody from every corner of the region can come together. This is not just a downtown project. This is a regional project where we can create a space for everybody to come be together, much like Open Streets on Douglas, but imagine if we had an activated place that was designed for that, not just for cars. And so we heard from Project Wichita there. It also identified the performing arts and the convention opportunities that existed as well. Project Downtown, as Jeff mentioned, began this conversation many, many years ago. And it's actually fun as we've been in this process. We've started going back to the history of the site and actually going back as far back to 1822 to look at what was happening in this site, what was happening in the late 1800s. So, there was life on this East Bank before 1969 when Century 2 was built. And so what was the community thinking about? How were they using it? How were they activating it? And there's a really activated area in that time frame. So July 31st was a chance for us to just kind of identify the process for folks and invite them into it. September 24th and 25th, we're calling them urban exploration tours, a kind of walking tours of the whole site. We want to create context for people, not just to drive by the site, but to see, feel, and experience it. What's it look like to try to navigate toward the river? What do you feel? What do you experience as you do that? How do you move south beyond the Hyatt? How do you engage water walk and those types of things? Does it feel cohesive? What would make it feel more cohesive? Those types of things. And so we'll begin those tours about an hour, about half a mile. Though if there are folks have mobility concerns, you can go to our website and let us know, and we'll make arrangements for you to be a part of it. We'll hear from the design team in that context, just some basic facts that we've seen from the studies that have been done over the last several years. Hear from some of the anchor tenants, like performing arts and convention folks, and what's working well about this site, what's not working not so well about the site. And then all of these instances going forward will have opportunities for folks to ask questions or comments at the end of that. So we want to make sure there's a robust discussion. October 17th will be a time where we'll gather together in one big place and hear from the design team what actually, the studies that we showed a second ago, what do they say? How can we stand on the shoulder of that data and not start from scratch? And then also give us a preliminary look at what RCLCO is saying in terms of what's feasible for programs in that master site. November will be a big point in this process, and after November we'll likely come back to this group as well and talk about the multiple scenarios that the design team will put forward. And 3 or 4 different scenarios that say, given what we know, given what the community has said, given the budget realities, this is what we could look at in terms of moving that forward, and to give a chance for the community to say, I like this about this plan, I don't like this about that plan. These are the pieces that I like and don't like, and it would be attached to some real numbers so that we could, make those types of, or give that type of input within context. And then finally in January, based on all that feedback again, do a final concept and then submit that eventually to the city and to the county after 6-7 months of community engagement and input. So I'm thrilled that Councilmember Johnson is on this coalition, represents the city on this coalition, and so we've had great conversations about how best to engage young people, underrepresented communities, really seeing the community rally around that. So this is same amount of information. You'll see this on the cards that we've passed out here. All this, again, is available on our website, riverfrontlegacywichita.org. I believe that's it. We'd love to entertain any of your questions or comments, or Jeff, if there's anything that we left out.
Will any funding mechanisms be tied to this plan at all?
It's a great question. So part of what RCLCO is doing is looking at funding and implementation strategies. So, if we're looking at a strategy that, activates the site in a particular way, well, we could, activate this strategy, or this strategy, or this strategy. And so they'll take a look at all of those types of opportunities. We don't have a funding commitment at this point. That would obviously be something that we'd want to discuss as a community, but they're looking at all options that are available to make sure that this happens, and if we get a chance to do it, we do it right.
I had a couple of questions. Of RCLCO and the other people that we're actually working with, what did you like most about them when we selected them?
Well, Populous is a firm in North America that is, well, actually globally, that is known for convention center development and performing arts. So part of it is get the best that you can get, correct? And so they're bringing the expertise of how is it you begin the massing on the site. So how do these buildings begin to work on the site? What is it that they need to be as far as to be successful for the market, and what we want to do as we go forward the next 50 years. Olin is a world-class landscape architecture firm that has just done some phenomenal work And what they do is actually, as you begin to look at where you want to put the buildings, it's like how does all the area around the buildings begin to work cohesively? How are they connected? Some of the images I showed you, again, other world-class landscape architects involved with how you create a distinctive landscape that encompasses this whole campus area, if you will. So Olin will bring that type of expertise to that work. RCLCO is known as well for their economic analysis. And so they really can peel back to understand, what are the market potentials. And that was something that we did with Project Downtown. I mentioned earlier the success of that plan. It really was built off understanding what's the housing opportunity that we could build out, even the type of housing. How many micro units, and we defined micro units as like 500 square feet, and how many 1 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms. And then you get into commercial. One of the things that we learned as we looked at the commercial part of it is that, in our landscape, if you will, we want to build 3 and 4 story office buildings. If we built a 10-story or 12-story office building, we would absorb so much of the market's future that you'd have one building versus getting the concentration of the density you want. So RCLCO will help us understand what is it that we could really begin to develop that whole area. And part of it is too, is that, as Evan was mentioning earlier, is that the West Bank now is at play. No pun intended with baseball, but it's underway. And so we know what it's going to begin to be shaped into. That influences now what we do with Waterwalk. Before the West Bank was done, a lot of that entertainment was going to be in Waterwalk. Well, that's changed now. And we know how that's changed. And so RCLCO will help us understand how you develop that quadrant so that, again, if you think about this whole riverfront area, you want it to operate successfully when you don't have a major game going on, or if you don't have a major performance going on, because you're going to have restaurants, you're going to have retail, you're going to want it to be like its own little ecosystem, if you will, of economics. And so really working in that area, RCLCO will help us be able to do that.
I like the complement of the global expertise, but the local connection here too. Not just in the fact that they did a lot of this work in 2014, and we want to build off that. But the global head for conventions at Populous is born, is from Hutchinson, saw his first concert of his life. Todd Rundgren in Century 2, right? Or Larry Hoopmer, who's a master planner in this area for Scott is in the city. His son, Derek Hoopmer, is actually was with Olin in Philadelphia. So you have folks that grew up here and they can translate that to a local context.
So I really appreciate you talking about wanting various voices at the table to discuss how do we create a downtown that works for everyone. Can you talk to us a little bit about the process that you're taking? So someone who may be listening on Facebook Live, maybe they want to be a part of that conversation, they know how they can participate?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, we want to hear from everybody. Even just last week, members of our team were meeting with 259 students, and thinking through what would be interesting to you, or in a couple of weeks meeting with 3rd graders to say, when do you guys come downtown? And if not, why? And why not? So we really want to hear from those voices. A couple of options that are available. One, attend these open gatherings here. That's a great way to be a part of it. Another easy way, 24/7, go to our website, riverfrontlegacywichita.org. You can kind of submit your vision anytime you want. And I get those emails, and it's been a joy to see. There's some bold ideas, we'll say, but all of them get forwarded in directly to these architects and these designers. And then the third big piece, the Legacy Lounge, has just launched through a partnership between the Knight Foundation and the Community Foundation. Mm-hmm. If you've seen those big kind of train cars near Century 2, that'll be an activated space several times over the next couple of months. So we mentioned open streets. So that'll be activated then. We'll be there. No dunk tanks, but would love to engage folks there. And you can even kind of submit.
Maybe we could do that.
So there are a number of ways to do that. Website's a great way to get up-to-date information. When in doubt, there's some you can email, and those emails will get to me, and I'll make sure we can get them connected to folks.
Thank you so much.
Can you clarify what you mean by Legacy Lounge?
Yeah.
Place, time?
Yeah, so the Legacy Lounge is a kind of placemaking initiative hosted by the Wichita Community Foundation and the Knight Foundation. So you'll see over the next couple of months, these train cards with some words on them, and there's an opportunity for folks to go and submit ideas and put them in the box there. They'll be programming that at particular moments, and particular days coming up, and so that we'll make sure to broadcast that information as well. But just for a point of context,
Near Century Two?
yep, just north of Century 2 on Douglas.
Is that the Make Wichita Win?
Yep.
Is that one of them?
That's the same group. So we're working with the Community Foundation, not directly on that, but a number of people have stepped in and say, how can we make sure that that folks that outside of that downtown ring can be a part of the input process.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I am so glad to hear that you said that you want to make sure all voices are heard, because at one point, that was the thriving area for African Americans. I'm sure your history showed you that. So that's awesome that you want to hear everybody's voices as we move forward. And the other thing I was going to say is that I go to conventions like all the time, and the one thing that we don't have is the hotels to accommodate. So is that in the plan? I'm sure it is. I know you talked about duplexes and apartments and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, but I'm sure there's a master plan for hotels as well.
That'll be a part of RCLCO's work. So as we look at the type of facilities we want to build, there is an equation to the number of hotel rooms you need. And we've had some great projects in downtown, with the Ambassador and the Broadview, Fairfield Inn, some of those hotels that have come in. But we need to do more because, again, convention business, we're leaving a lot on the table right now, but not having what they call industry standard facilities. Right now, we can't attract Hamilton Inn. We can't attract other plays that we'd like to have because the facilities just do not lend themselves to what they need today. So anyway, there will be that emphasis on how is it you build the infrastructure, and hotel rooms are part of the infrastructure for success in that downtown. Yes, ma'am.
Are you looking at a time frame as far as developing this area, say 10, 15, 20, 30 years, or is this just going to be a continuously ongoing program?
Our answer would be the sooner the better, but it will be a multi-year project. Look at downtown. I mean, with what's been going on since 2010. I mean, it's a multi-year plan. When we did that plan, it was about a 15 to 20-year vision. A lot of that's come to fruition, so we'll probably be revisiting it in the next couple of years. But I would say that we're looking at an outlook of 15, 20 years by the time of really looking at everything, because this is a large project. But the thing is now with Wichita that I love is that if there's a way to accelerate something, it's done. I mean, there's the will to move these things forward if you can actually expedite some things. So optimistically, I'd love to be able to see it all, and be able to experience it. But it will be a multi-year, probably multi-phase project. But again, the hope is that the moments that we can accelerate it, we will do that.
Last couple of things. It's fantastic to see the amount of involvement you've had thus far. What have been some of the interesting things or pieces that you could take away from public input? And then 2, what's the general vibe? Is it positive or is it something different?
I think a general vibe is that there's passion for this area of our city, and you want that. I mean, downtown is an area that everyone should own, regardless of where you live in this county. I mean, it's kind of our identity, correct? I mean, you think about the cities I was showing you, like Nashville and Chattanooga and so forth. You think of the core, right? And so that's that one area that we all have ownership in, regardless of where we live. So I think there's a passion definitely that we've seen. I mean, that's when we had close to 400 people show up for the first meeting. There's a real interest. The other thing is there's a lot of people that are really saying, what can we do? What's the vision here? Let's think big. This is our moment. We've seen great things happen in our city, from a new airport to what's happening at WSU. There's a lot of things happening. So there's been a realization from the wonderful renderings now that you can touch things, and it's gone pretty quickly. And so there's a lot of thought about what if, which is great because that's what you need to be able to do. And so there's just passion around this. We see that. We see that with the responses that we're getting. And again, really people are thinking about what are the opportunities that we want to see for our city? What's the next 50 years look like? And let's be really aspirational, as they were when they built C2, back when they did that 50 years ago.
They brought down the forum. They were very aspirational about what. So this is that moment again that we can really push and be that time period that really is defining for the city.
It's the number one takeaway I've had is similar to those lines, is that people don't want so-so. You know, if we're gonna do it, let's do it.
Good.
Let's do something that we can be proud of and that will mark our community. That might take longer, it might be harder. Generally it is to do those types of things, but I think the commitment is, we don't wanna duct tape this thing. The other big piece we've heard too is particularly from young people, high schoolers, kids, just wanna be able to go somewhere. And so, park space is more than just a stretch of grass. It's, activating a place like that is giving somebody a reason to be there, more than buying a ticket to a show or, but if that can be the community heartbeat, if that's where families would go and senior citizens would go and high schoolers would go on a Friday evening to gather together, I think we've really seen a strong response that way. And so that open space and how we want to engage the river and not kind of have the river apart, I think would be the two most striking pieces of feedback I've had.
Good. Not seeing any other questions up here. Happy to go ahead and turn it out to the public. Any questions from the public?
Yeah, what's the city's bonding capacity at the moment? When's it projected to return to a sum that you could use for this project?
That's not particularly a question that I could address. I don't want to put it on Brandon, but I don't know that number to be able to give you a good number on that.
Do you have any idea how much it would cost to prevent the sort of deferred maintenance that's resulted in most of the problems at Century 2?
That's part of what we're gonna, when we mentioned the October meeting, where RCLCO will be back with Populous, that's the type of information that will be actually presented at that meeting as far as what we are looking at with deferred maintenance. What are the type of things as far as envisioning what we want to do, what type of opportunities do we see there. So that would actually be information that'll be coming forth from the group in October.
But you raise a good point in terms of some of these facilities. It's not just the cost to build, but the cost to maintain as well. So when we look at other peer cities that have done things like this well, you don't just think about how much brick you need to buy to make it come out of the ground, but also what does it look like on a yearly basis so that we don't arrive at a $200 million deferred.
Does any of those cities in town a maintenance fund for their new structures and institutions?
Yeah, we've actually seen where, like in Omaha, we had Sue Morrison from Heritage Services, and part of what they've done with some of their capital improvements is that they've looked at how do you potentially create some operating endowments. I mean, it's a commitment, and so but that's part of what they've done with some of the things that they've looked at, and that's all again looking at how is it we go about building this, and how do we phase it? What are the different opportunities for it? We did that with Project Downtown, and it's been really successful. We had downtown investment policy that came out as a part of that plan to help us understand how is it we leverage the public sector investment to really maximize what we'd see in the private sector. And that's been successful. I mean, with the $750 million of investment in the last 9 to 10 years, 77% of that's been private. So it works in how you leverage. And that's what we have to do with this as well. And that's what other cities have done extremely well too, is how do you look at that overall? So we'll be doing that as well.
How do you intend to prevent what happened at the arena where when the bids came in, immediately things started to go out of the project, and now we have a much smaller arena and one with severe problems in some areas that prevent it from being the arena we were told we were gonna get?
I'd say that we learn from every situation. And so I think that's what we could do.
And that's factored into this process. When we get to January and this master plan is rolled out, the number that would be associated for whatever concept the community would want to go is going to be a real particular number. So down to the construction cost estimating subcontracts that allow us to get there, so that we'll have a pretty clear idea.
Everybody does that, but when the bids actually come in and they're way over, then stuff starts going out of the project. It happens over and over.
Just to keep with protocol, sir, would you be willing to go ahead and state your name and address?
Oh, I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, it's Dan Rouser, R-O-U-S-E-R, 117.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. Any other questions or comments from the public? Bring it back in. Last chance here.
So what would you say to those who say we've already made up our minds and we know what we're gonna do already?
We have not. I mean, the mind has not been made up. I mean, honestly, this is the opportunity to weigh in on what you want to see happen. So there hasn't been a resolution on, hey, we're just going through a process and we know what we want to do. That is not the case.
Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you talked about doing things to retain talent and that homegrown. Most of the companies I've been hearing are not homegrown. Are there opportunities for Wichitans to maybe get hired on and help with the project?
Well, part of what, maybe in the next phase of this, where we are right now is the planning. What is it that we want to go build? You know, what are the opportunities? And so then, as you get that done, then you start to move into the phases of actually implementation. And so then you get into the particulars of the design development. You go after the companies that would then build these opportunities. And so there may be opportunities there where local people can be a part of that process and be part of those companies that actually build. You know, one of the things that's really important is that with entrepreneurship, you know, we do a lot of things with, you know, attraction of talent, retention of talent, and we work with business expansion. We're really working with how is it you grow the local companies too. And so all that's part of what we do, in addition to what we're talking about tonight with the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan. That's a component of the bigger picture as well.
But to your point, when it gets down to that time to, you know, those will be local companies, I'm sure, that will be really benefiting from this level of investment.
Last chance for questions.
We'll
Okay.
be back.
Yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back, and you have our contact information, so you can ask us questions anytime.
Will you bring those extra cards back for us back here?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to item number 5. Are there any? Yes, Camila. All right. Real quick, are there any off-agenda items? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into new business. Item number 6.
Good evening, I'm Scott Knable with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. Item 6 is a request for a conditional use for a tavern and drinking establishment on property that's zoned CBD Central Business District. It's located on the north side of Douglas, approximately 1 block east of Hydraulic. The building is presently vacant. It was formerly a retail establishment. The applicant has provided a site plan that shows the proposed modifications to the drinking establishment, which is going to be named the Lava and Tonic Tiki Bar. The primary change is to the entrance in the front of the building, where they're going to recess the facade to create an outdoor seating area. That outdoor seating area, they made an application to also use a portion of the sidewalk, similar to one of their neighbors, Hopping Gnome, did the same thing a few years ago. And so we're going through that process. The reason for the conditional use is the residential properties that are zone B multifamily that are located just slightly less than 300 feet from this property on the south side of Douglas. And the zoning code requires anytime that there's a residentially zoned property within 300 feet, conditional use is required regardless of the base zoning. The area itself is identified in the comprehensive plan as an area for new employment, and establishments such as this that provide amenities to employers are identified as something that the comprehensive plan encourages in new employment areas. The site's also within the community investments plan to establish central area, which has a goal to increase levels of infill redevelopment, and of course activating a vacant storefront is one of the primary ways in which you could do that. The staff recommendation is to approve the project. There's a number of conditions that relate to restrooms, to noise, to lighting, and other codes. And it's based on the findings that are contained in the staff report. That'll answer the questions you have. And the applicant is here as well.
Go ahead.
Well, we always like to ask, is the homeowner here, or have you heard from
planning commission meeting, there was one person who spoke, noted some concerns. They actually live in the second story of commercial buildings along Douglas, actually not residentially zoned property. None of the residentially zoned properties here for the planning commission, I don't believe they're here tonight either.
Very good.
The other age-old question is, were they notified and appropriately and in the right amount of time, or?
Yes, we always notify everybody appropriately with the right amount of time.
Any other questions for Scott? If not, I'd love to hear from the applicant. Good.
Is it standard protocol for any business that goes in that has less than 16 seating positions that they don't have to provide a restroom?
Well, they provide a restroom. If they exceed 16 seats on the outdoor portion of the business, then those seats count towards the occupancy as it relates to how many restroom facilities they have to have. If it's 16 or less, then it's just the indoor seats.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you said 16 seats outside triggers more bathroom space?
Potentially, yes. I mean,
Potentially could.
it depends on what and I don't believe they're modifying the bathrooms to a significant extent with this project, but depending upon what the overall occupancy is, those 16, additional 16 seats would count if there are more than that on the outside. And I don't recall how many, I don't think I brought the plan that shows how many they have outside, but I think it is less than 16.
Do you know how much space would be allowed for wheelchair users for that sidewalk? One of the concerns that I've...
Yeah, the sidewalk space that would be provided would be 6 feet.
Okay, is that pretty standard?
Yeah, that is the minimum in our code for allowing a sidewalk cafe. Instead of
6 feet.
having a 6-foot sidewalk, which would allow actually 2 wheelchairs to pass one another.
I don't have any questions more for Scott. Love to hear from the applicant, though.
Question is, are there samples from the applicant?
He's not a.
My name is Alex Thomas. My address is 220 South Green Street, Wichita, Kansas. I am the co-owner, operator of Lava and Tonic. I'm also the co-owner, operator of Kirby's Beer Store, the Cotillion, Lucky's Everyday, sole owner, operator. I was the operator and co-owner of Barley Corns on Douglas. I've been running businesses in Wichita and I've been, for the last decade regarding drinking establishments, taverns. Been living in Wichita since 1999. I'm very involved in the community from a local business standpoint and the communities that are surrounding my establishments. We wanted to bring this concept to Wichita because it's a growing trend. It's actually a time-old trend from the 30s and 40s where tiki bars emerged as a sort of escapism, bringing kind of the Polynesian Pacific vibes to kind of upscale lounges, etc. So we've done quite a bit of research. We've been working on the project for a year. When we chose our initial location, it was on South Commerce. That fell through and we continued our search and found the available retail space on Douglas. We feel that we fit in line with the burgeoning spaces that are there between Hydraulic, Minneapolis. It's a nice little cove of restaurants, brewery. One thing that we initially wanted to do was maybe make an approach of making a restaurant, which would not have triggered the conditional use if we were able to do 50% food sales. As we got into the project, we realized, one, we didn't have the space, and in coordinating with the health department, we realized we were not going to be able to achieve, while we do offer food, we're not going to be able to achieve the proper percentage of income to be classified as a restaurant. So once we triggered the drinking establishment license, that's when it came into play that we had to coordinate with the planning committee for the MABCD, whatever. So that's where we sit. Basically, we're asking now in terms of the front modification, we're still in process of obtaining the permits and licensing regarding that. It will be a cafe permit that I believe that it's labeled that we're applying for. It's still in process. We have stamped architectural and engineering drawings regarding that. That will probably be phase 2, considering the budget that's required and the time to acquire that permit, but we're still seeking the conditional use variance for opening up as a drinking establishment. So that's basically the long and short of it, but if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the DAB?
So is this similar, is this similar to like the Wave?
No,
Something like
there's
that?
no entertainment. We're not seeking an entertainment license at all. This is a lounge setting, basically a tiki bar. It's a tropical theme. So, I mean, we're talking about, basically, tiki bars came about in the 30s, anywhere from California to Pennsylvania. It was kind of bringing a tropical theme to a bar, kind of kitschy, fun, stylistic style, in a bar. People wear Hawaiian shirts. It's just kind of a fun getaway. So if you're in the middle of a Kansas winter, you step into this bar, we want you to feel like you're on vacation on a sandy beach somewhere. That's the mode. It's a very big trend that's coming back, and you see them kind of gaining popularity in bigger cities. And we kind of wanted to bring that concept to Wichita. It's uniquely different than my other offerings that are music, centered. But there will be no entertainment license that we apply for here. I mean, this is strictly we don't even have a TV in the bar. This is taking it back to people hanging out, talking, which is kind of a rarity these days. But that's what we're going for, real thematic experience coming in there. So it's as much about the environment as it is for us to serve the alcoholic drinks.
Really looking forward to a ukulele trio.
Well, we don't have that entertainment license, so I guess we'll have to figure something out. Maybe we'll have ukuleles playing over the sound system. But we were, we're really, looking forward to things like Open Streets, which is right along that corridor that we can participate in and really contribute. And like I said, we are just within that 300 feet, and actually, it didn't become, I wasn't aware of that until we were applying for that license, because there is a brewery pretty much next door to us, So we're a little rushed. I will admit that, we've been putting a lot of time and planning and money into this process, and it's really hinging on this conditional use.
Yes, is there a neighborhood association within those boundaries? Or do you know?
I do not know. I don't think there is.
My neighborhood,
Your neighborhood
yes,
encompass that area?
yes,
It is at the Hyde
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
As well as the Douglas Design District.
Yeah. We'd be a part of the Douglas Design District.
Would your think that your neighborhood association would support this venue?
I don't see any problem with it. It seems to me like it would fit right in, that area right there. But I was gonna ask the question about parking, when it was my turn to talk.
Well, to me, or,
Yes,
well, it's zoned central business district, so there are no parking requirements. I own another bar in the CBD, Lucky's Every Day at 1217 East Douglas. And there is street parking available there, and the master plan for Douglas, where we were parallel parked on that street, and then they gave us slanted parking spaces, which alleviated some of the surrounding parking. But we see a lot of foot traffic in that area. And as we understand it, we can engage in Tanya's Soup Kitchen's parking lot and see if that's a problem. But we're reliant on the fact that we've seen a lot of foot traffic there regardless. Additionally, our landlord is trying to seek some other opportunities for properties around there regarding parking. But
Well, you're on the queue line too.
We're on the queue line.
Scooters are helping out with multi.
there are a lot of scooters out front. There are a lot of scooters. And generally speaking, my other bar is, you can see it from the front door of this bar. And conceivably, I will be personally walking back and forth
know, I mean, I think that's a reasonable walk. CSB Brewery is within the Hyde neighborhood, right across from Hyde Park, I believe, and, I mean, it's all, you know, within those plans, really, and I think we're not as much, I've been asked that question a lot, we're not concerned that people won't come there because there's not available parking. There's additionally a parking lot right next to Donut Hole as well. And our hours of operation kind of work opposite to most of the other businesses there, so.
One more thing, I actually for Scott, aren't they planning some mid-block crossings on Douglas as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You said mid-block.
Pedestrian
Crossing.
crossings, so you don't have to go to the end of the block.
We'll officially go out to the community. Are there any other questions?
No.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and actually bring it back in. Oh, Camila.
Scott, can you clarify, who is looking at mid-block pedestrian crossing?
That would be part of the design of the Douglas project from Washington to Grove.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anyone interested in entertaining, well, I'm interested in entertaining a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Samples next time.
And my wine and
Very good. Okay, so that was item 6. Item 7 is updates, issues, and reports. So we'll start at this end. James.
everything going on. We just did intake this evening for Real Men Real Heroes, so program is starting back again. Today was our first session with, well, meeting the parents, so that's back on. That's all for right now.
No update from you?
Very good.
No updates.
I don't have anything.
Nothing here.
On October 2nd, the Wichita Bulldogs, in conjunction with the city of Wichita, is hosting a cheer contest for all junior league cheerleader organizations. It'll be at Lynette Woodard, 6 to 7:30. We're gonna have, so far, celebrity judges, Senator Aletha Faust and Robert Garner, formerly with USD 259. And we're still looking for one more celebrity judge, but it's gonna be fun. Last year we had about 350 young people come out, and so we're encouraging all junior league cheerleader organizations and football teams to come out and join us.
Great time last year.
You a former cheerleader? No, not me, I mean, I cheer, but I'm not asking for it, I'm asking, are you looking for,
Yes.
like, who's your next celebrity that you're looking for, seriously?
Seriously, maybe she'll hear this. Felicia Rolfe is back, and she would be awesome. I'm hoping she's watching. She would
Felicia
be
Rolfe.
awesome.
Very good. Tom.
And I guess I would just piggyback on the Open Streets ICT happening September 22nd. Along with that's going to be the Avenue Art Days project that the Douglas Design District puts on every fall. That'll be going on as well on September 22nd. So get out and support those two.
Avenue Art,
Avenue Art Days.
at the same time?
Yep, same day. Mural crawl and everything.
Same location?
I think all up and down Douglas, from Oliver to Washington.
Council.
Awesome. So just to note, tomorrow we are voting on a potential agreement on Napsker Park and the private side of that would utilize about 10 foot by 120 or 150 foot for some private use, dining opportunities outside, a fence that would wall that off so that they could, customers could take their drinks outside. So we'll be considering that tomorrow. It is on the public agenda. I know it was said that it was on our consent agenda, but on Fridays, we have agenda review, which is when we set our agenda. So even if it's presented on consent, we can put it on regular agenda. So it will be on the regular agenda. If you would like to comment on that, definitely be there at 9 a.m. at City Hall in the morning. Just want to encourage you all to continue to spread this information out as DAB board members. You get a lot more information than folks who may not get all of this in one time in one space. So if you can, continue to share this. City Council voted on a Fuse Fellow a few weeks ago to help out with our neighborhood opportunity zones. That person did accept and should be here in about 2 weeks. And we will invite them out to all the district advisory board meetings, our breakfast, so you can get to know them. And their focus will be how do we maximize opportunity zones in our neighborhoods, and that's their sole job. So they will be here. It's a young lady, wonderful person. She actually got out and drove some of these areas before the interview. She told us that later, so pretty good. If you haven't heard, the Evergy Community Investment Fund announced winners. It was supposed to be $200,000 a year for 5 years. This year, they actually awarded $375,000 to 13 organizations. That is on their website, the Wichita Community Foundation website. They should have access to those dollars here pretty soon. They were all notified, and it's out in the press release. On that same topic, we should have a meeting with Evergy very soon, community meeting, to talk about phase 1, replacing steel poles with wooden poles. They will present options to the community. Once we have a date and location set, I will share that with you so we can let the community know about it. They will also talk about phase 2 possibly and what that looks like. So we'll make sure we get the word out so you all can be there and make sure neighbors are there. We had the 9th Street dedication on August 31st. It was pretty awesome, really good turnout, a lot of happy faces and tears, and it was great to see. That was a wonderful investment over there. Definitely thanks to Levanta for her work to make sure that came to pass, and our Lieutenant Governor and KDOT Secretary that helped us with the pillars. That was a long battle that I didn't think was going to be that long, but we got it, so that was good. People have talked about open streets several times. I don't have to repeat that. Tomorrow is a candidate forum. We've got 2 folks running for mayor, our incumbent and a challenger. That's at Roxy's downtown at 5:30 p.m. Please attend. I always think that elections are important, especially on the city level, so go check out the candidates. If you can ask them a question, please do so. We get to know who they are and what they stand for. And one thing I skipped on Evergy, this is a conversation coming that will probably happen at a public meeting, but I had requested to modify the City of Wichita comprehensive plan for utilities because of this. And I know that MAPC wants to talk to both myself and Evergy about that. That should be coming, I think in November. I'll have to check that date, but I did request that we modify that. That would limit what types of poles and where and what that looks like aesthetically. Per state law, we don't have a lot of influence, but I like to have conversations anyway. So that's what we are doing there. And I believe that is it. Our next DAB meeting is October 7th, and you will hear from 21st and Oliver again, so be ready for that. That's all I got.
Question for you, just a quick question. What grounds or steps have you taken for that illegal dumping, other than just a case by case?
2 things. A lot of case by case, kind of depending on where it is. We're gonna have some more in-depth conversations, we as in myself, city manager, assistant city manager Martin, to look at environmental court as well as this process of complaint versus action. So once you complain, Camila's really good about getting the word out that if you see grass at 10 inches, go ahead and say something. It'll grow 2 inches overnight or the next day. So once we get that in, it's over 12 inches. We have to send out a letter. You have to get the letter. You got 30 days from that letter to do something about it. Then we go back and inspect. So a citizen can be staring at tall grass and weeds for 45 days and and nothing happens. And then if that person wants to pay the fine and not cut it, then what? So we're gonna look at how do we get better results out of that. And it's tough with, again, environmental court. It gets to a point where we either say cut your grass or we throw you in jail, and most of us don't wanna throw somebody in jail over grass, but we've gotta have that conversation, and we'll be starting that here pretty soon.
Illegal dumping.
And then the illegal dumping piece, we have the ability to monitor some sites. There are some sites being monitored right now by WPD. One area off of 11th Street, we had the street blocked off. We haven't seen any dumping over there once we blocked off that street behind those two churches. And I'll probably move to see if we can get that vacated, so that's just never an issue again. We're also looking at areas where you can find a letter or something that has a legitimate address from like a governmental agency or something like that. I have asked to be able to send letters to these folks to let them know we found your trash in this location. So even if it's an eviction or something else, at least they know whoever was paid to take care of this didn't do their job, and they can start holding them accountable. But we've got to find a way to have a serious, hold somebody accountable for that. It's been too much. And I've learned a lot that some of this is, or a lot of it is just evictions. So they want to get rid of the property somewhere else. And the one that we found across the street was an eviction. So it's just trying to figure out case by case and working with our inspectors, what's the best thing we can do. We'll probably have a few different trials happening next year, just to see what works and what doesn't work. Whatever does work, we'll try to keep that up. Whatever doesn't work, we'll stop. But, long answer, but yeah, working on it.
Camila.
Some flyers back there you might be interested in grabbing. Child Support Amnesty Day, an expungement conversation to hear about if you have a criminal record and if it could be expunged. And the Shops, Cops, Fire, and Kids Day, so a safe interaction for kids to interact with the different components of our safety crews as far as fire and police. And then also a senior job fair is coming up. And also Park and Rec helped host a punt, pass, and kick last Friday with the Greater Wichita Junior League football team. And the kids got acknowledged at the Heartland Football Classic last Saturday at WSU between Langston University and McPherson. So that was pretty cool engagement with those youth through Park and Rec too. So we're excited to keep kids involved in the community and active in different arenas.
And Langston won 21-20.
For people that are interested in saving Century 2, there's going to be a meeting next Tuesday, the 17th, over at Mary Jane Teal Theater from 5:30 till about 7 or so. They're going to have tours and speakers, and it'll be a chance to gather with people about ways to save Century 2. I mean, there's been a lot said about all the problems, but there's also a lot of people that think that those problems are all fixable. So, anyway, I thought I'd put that out there. It's another, I'm involved with a couple of historic preservation groups, yes. They're putting it on.
September 17th?
Yes.
All right. I will entertain another motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Good evening, all.
Somebody should have done a substitute motion that the meeting doesn't end until midnight.